Hello there, my name is Alaydriem and welcome back to another Minecraft Bedrock tutorial with your favorite cardigan wearing Minecraft character. And today in this episode, I'm going to show you how to build this fully AFK, fully automatic mangrove tree farm for your Minecraft Bedrock 1.19 world. Yes, you heard that right. Through the use of an auto clicker, we are now able to slice, dice, and cube mangrove trees and harvest all of their materials with the only player interaction necessary being to auto click. This farm is incredibly quick for what it does, allowing you to fully harvest and cube up a mangrove tree in about 55 seconds and having the entire mechanism fully reset, ready to harvest a new tree in about 1:15. And as a little extra added bonus, I'm also going to show you how to build this mangrove propagule farm, which will allow you to generate all the mangrove propagules that you will ever need to run this farm pretty much indefinitely. This farm right here is super simple and easy to set up and generates a mangrove propagule every 3 or 4 seconds or so, meaning that after a very short period of time, you can have an entire chest filled up with these mangrove propagules ready to do whatever you want with them. Now, before we get into the tutorial for this farm, I do need to give you a moving parts warning for it. You see, this farm is going to be using 13 independent flying machines that are going to be bouncing between the top and the bottom and the left and the right of the farm. And Bedrock and flying machines, especially flying machines that return back to where they started from, well, let's just say that flying machines and Bedrock don't go well together as a general rule. Now, this farm will work. I have been using it for about 2 weeks now, tweaking, tuning, and refining it. All of the redstone will work completely reliably, but there's not a lot that we can do about buggy Bedrock code when it comes to the flying machines themselves. So if you do choose to build this farm, be aware that sometimes Bedrock will just make your flying machines break, and there's nothing you or I can do about it to prevent that. However, I do have solutions for this at the very end of the video, and if something does break, the most amount of tweaking that you're going to need to do to fix it is going to be either to manually relaunch the flying machines, or in one specific scenario, rebuild the flying machines, which is super simple and easy to do. As an additional disclaimer, I did not fully invent this farm. This farm is heavily remixed from a YouTuber called Old Rusty. I will have a link to him down in the description. He originally invented this slicing and dicing mechanism that actually harvests the tree. My addition to this farm has been transforming it from a completely manual farm to one that you can actually AFK at. So with all of the disclaimers out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the mechanics of this farm and how it actually works. Now, unlike other trees in Minecraft Bedrock, mangroves grow in a super duper weird way. When you plant one down, they will do a lot of different things, but you will have this kind of weird X shape. Sometimes you'll have something spawn in the center. Most of the time, you'll have them spawn sort of in this shape. And if I take the leaves away, you can really see how unique this is. There are things going in all sorts of directions. You've got a huge middle column of things, and there is no simple way to just push pistons across the entirety of this and get it to grow. Additionally, mangroves need very specific requirements for where they can grow in. They need direct access to sunlight through the block above them. There can't be too many blocks around them, either at the same level it is, 1 block above, 2, 3, or 4, and so forth, which make them really, really difficult to farm, especially with these branching Y structures. You have to find a way to gather every single aspect of this farm, this tree, without leaving any behind, because if you leave any behind, well, then your tree won't grow. Additionally, you're going to get 2 different types of wood from this farm, which is this roots and these logs. So our general approach for this is going to be, we're going to slice it straight up the middle, push all of these blocks that are kind of to the left and the right on up, leaving us with basically a long skinny tree, which then we can harvest using our regular cube makers for trees and pretty much anything else. So the tricky part of this farm is simply getting the components where we need it to be. Once we've got stuff where it needs to go, farming it straightforward. Now, in terms of the farm itself, let me walk you through all the moving parts, and then we will dive into the build. First, you place down your mangrove propagule right here, and then at the very bottom, here is our activation button. You press that button, it will cause this redstone block right here to eject that. That will fire up a observer clock, which will start bone mealing our mangrove propagule over and over again until it grows up into a tree. Now, when a mangrove tree spawns up, it's going to jump on kind of this north, south, east, west coordinates, and then it is going to hit these observers here. Somewhere along this line, an observer is going to be hit. That's going to stop the bone mealing process so that you don't accidentally do it. It will eject any mangrove logs that were sitting on top of that piece of dirt. Then it will fire off this up and down flying machine contraption, which will then move this straight into a cube maker where it can be harvested by the player later. Then once that comes all the way down and docks back with its resting station, it will then fire off this second set of flying machines, which will grab this middle section, which will be perfectly aligned with the top layer of farm where our observers are, and they will collect all of the remaining wood and shove it into a separate cube collection system for us. Now you'll see there's some stuff going on right here at the bottom. It's not going to break the farm. It's all accounted for. All of your wood, about I'd say 80% of your wood, is going to end up in here, and most of your mangrove roots is going to end up in that upper farm. And now once the farm has fully finished and this set of flying machines docks back with its home and resting space, then the farm is basically just going to automatically reset itself using a couple pieces of observer clocks, and then everything will start working again. And if you have placed down another mangrove propagule, you'll have another tree grow. So to get started with our mangrove propagule farm, you're going to start with a double chest with 2 hoppers going into it, a lever in front, and then a repeater going out to the left and a redstone line going out to the right. You're going to build this checker pattern over here to the left side of the farm where the repeater is going into. Then you're going to place a repeater in this spot, torch here, and then torch bouncing off that input. And then you're going to cover all of these blocks with redstone dust. Now, when you give this lever a flick on and off, make sure you have these set to 0 ticks. This will flash on and off, and we have a automatic repeating input that we can tie up to a few other things. Next, you're going to come over here to the back of the farm, and we're going to make a very simple repeating clock. Just spread out a couple blocks here. You're going to make this Y shape with the extended upper angle right here. You're going to place down comparator, 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 comparator. Then you're going to throw redstone torches there, and then 1 torch up here. Now, if you're on Bedrock 1.19.7, shift clicking, right clicking while crouching is kind of really a pain. So kind of just bear with it. There's a bug that needs to be worked out because the crosshair isn't aligned, but you're going to place the hoppers here in this orientation. In this bottom hopper, you're going to place 1 item. It can be any item you want. It's going to bounce back and forth. And then at the top here, we're going to place in a couple of items. One will do just for now. We're going to go ahead and fine tune that here in just a minute. Now, coming over here to the right of the farm, you're going to place down a repeater right there. And then you're going to have that repeater go into a block. You're going to make a staircase right here, torch, torch, and then you're going to get another block just right here. Coming out of that, you're going to have a piece of redstone dust. And now we're going to work on our dispenser setup so that we can farm and harvest the propagules for us automatically. So to get started, go ahead and grab yourself 2 dispensers, and you're going to crouch right down here, place 1 above this, and then you're going to place another one right on top of it. This bottom one is going to grow the propagule, and the top one is going to actually grow the initial propagule. So again, 1.19.70 bugs right there. Just do what the final thing is. Both of these are going to have a bone meal placed into them, and then we're going to place a block right here just as a temporary measure. Go ahead and grab yourself a piston and then have that just like that. Now you need to throw a block right over here, and then you're going to tie this up with redstone dust, and then you are going to tie the top of this dispenser up with another piece of redstone dust so it will also click on and off. Finally, you're going to grab yourselves some mangrove leaves. You're going to place it right in front of this second dispenser right on top there, and now this farm is done. If you want to clean it up just a little bit, you can always throw some glass blocks right in front, but that's really all that you need to do in order to make this farm work. Again, you need a piece of redstone dust right here, and then you are good to go. So as you can see, mangroves are being grown, and about every 3 to 4 seconds, you will see a mangrove propagule pop into this chest. As long as you keep this mechanism happy and fed with bone meal, you won't have any problems. All right, so with the easy farm out of the way, let's get into the real meat and potatoes. You're gonna wanna find yourself a big open space. I'll have a full materials list for you down in the description as usual, but you're gonna stack up 3 blocks, any block of your choosing, extend out 8 blocks from that, 2 pieces of glass, and then you're gonna extend out another 8 blocks as shown here. Next, you're going to go ahead and grab your pistons, and starting on the right side, put down a piston in front, 2 blocks, make sure you have that space there, and then you're going to have a non-symmetric build as shown right here. Place buttons down on top of each of these pistons, and then you're going to grab a line of redstone dust and dot it all just as so. Go ahead and stack up another 4 blocks, and then you're just going to extend this all the way to where you ended previously, and then directly in line with your pistons that you have on the lower level, you're going to slot in a piston 1 block behind it, just as shown here. And then to make it easier for you to actually access this farm in survival, throw a ladder up on that side. On this top row here, you're going to grab yourself a redstone line, dot all of that. And then in the middle here, we're going to replace these 3 blocks with an alternating staircase pattern of glass. And then you can throw redstone dust right on top of that as shown. Next, we're going to go ahead and build 3 glass blocks out from the top, and then we're going to staircase ladder down. We're going to go down 2 layers and then another 3rd layer right here. Here at the bottom, you're going to place yourself a solid block with an observer facing into it. So the face is out and the dot's going to be facing that block. Redstone piece of dust, and then you're going to grab yourself a redstone repeater feeding into that. Redstone ladder your way on up, and then on this second block right here, you're going to place 2 redstone repeaters, set those to 4 ticks, and then connect that redstone line as shown here. Place a solid block behind this, and then place a button on top of it. We'll use this as a debug point, so if you want to test something out, there's going to be plenty of these debug points just to verify. In this case, all of these pistons are moving when you retract it. Next, you're going to go ahead and grab your obsidian, and you're going to come down here to the bottom, 1 block up, and then 3 blocks out from the bottom of each of these pistons. This is going to be the lower docking station for our vertical flying machines. You're going to want to use obsidian here because obsidian's an immovable block, and we don't want things breaking simply out of silliness. So, with that said, this is what you should now have. Next, we're going to move on to some of the more technical components. You're going to drag down a slab, and you're going to place a half slab above this, come 2 out, place a dispenser, and then you're going to want to verify that that's actually a line that should be in line with the top of the dispenser. Below that, you're going to want to place a dirt block. I placed a mangrove root block here. You're really going to want to use dirt. The mangrove propagules can grow in either one, but I found dirt to be more reliable. To continue on, you're going to place 9 observers with the dot facing down, extending out from that. You're going to leave this as an open space. Then you're going to come down here to the second one over. You're going to place an observer like that, and that's going to detect that as well. You're going to extend out some half slabs with a piston facing down, and then you're going to grab yourself some redstone dust, and then you're going to grab that redstone dust and throw it along this entire slab and single piston that we laid down right here. So once that is in place, we're now going to create our block extender for our grass block. That needs to be a sticky piston, so that will push that up and down. Then we need to make our clock for our bone meal dispenser. So place a observer just like that. The dot needs to be going into the dispenser that we have right there. And then we're going to place down another observer 2 blocks below it with the face pointed up into that. So you're going to want this gap here. You're going to have the faces, and then the dot is going to be kind of open in the middle. Now go ahead and bridge down just 1 more block, and then you're going to place a sticky piston beneath that observer so that we can push that up. And when we push that up, that will act as an observer clock. Flipping on over to the back of the farm here, you're going to place a button on that piston with a redstone block facing down. And then we are going to need to place another block, another piston with another button on it pointed up so that we can pass that block back and forth. Go ahead and grab yourself an observer that's going to detect when that redstone block gets pushed up or down. You're going to go out 2 blocks, over 6, and then back over 1. Line that with redstone dust, and then right here in this empty spot, place down a repeater. Make sure that repeater's on 3 ticks, and the last repeater here needs to be on 0 ticks or 1 tick, depending upon how you define it. There needs to be no ticks on that second repeater, and then 3 total for that second. So the second to last option. Now, coming over here, we're going to make ourselves a very simple T flip-flop. You're going to place down a dispenser facing up, the dispenser on top of that facing out towards all of our hoppers. Then you're going to have 2 hoppers feeding into that bottom one. Place yourself a comparator in front of that first dispenser, and then you're going to want to place down a solid piece of obsidian right in front of it. Next, you're going to come over here, have a sticky piston, and then in front of that sticky piston, you're going to have yourself 1 solid piece of redstone block that is going to be ejected, and make sure you put a piece of redstone dust on that sticky piston. Slap a button on this top dispenser, throw a single item into it of any kind of your choosing, and give that a quick test so that when you push that button, you should see that block bouncing back and forth. Now, these T flip-flops can sometimes be a little bit tricky, so make sure you wrap this in some kind of trapdoors that will help keep whatever item you are tossing back and forth from accidentally falling out too far. And again, please forgive the Bedrock 1.19.70 misclick weirdness where the cursor isn't lining up. All right, once you have that in place, just give that a couple quick tests, and then you're going to want to shut this off to the off position, and then we are going to build our main activation lever. You're going to go ahead and grab yourself an observer and then a couple pieces of solid block, and then we're going to have an input from the observer going into this top dispenser right here. So a couple ways you can do this. Probably the easiest way is just to extend out as shown here. Have that. Again, the face should be facing you, dots going into that. Doesn't matter if that's triggered or not. Then you're going to staircase down just a couple pieces. So stair out here, and we're going to go down 1 more. Grab yourself a redstone torch underneath that, and then pop a redstone dust there that the observer can detect. We're going to build another T flip-flop circuit, exact same we built before. So dispenser facing up, dispenser facing out. Then we're going to have a hopper feeding into that with a comparator. Going to do the exact same thing. Throw a button on the back of it, line it with a single item inside of it, and then encase it inside of some type of trapdoor if you're choosing. Now down here, we're going to do something different. You're going to have a sticky piston with a solid block facing into it, and then you're going to grab yourself a redstone comparator. That redstone comparator is going to go into that block. Then you're going to get this line of redstone dust, go out 2 blocks right here. Then right over here, grab yourself a sticky piston that's going to go down. It should be facing down right in this position. And then you're going to have an observer facing down with the dot pointed down to the ground. And then you can wire up this redstone line. Again, like I said, you're going to want to keep that item fully encased so it doesn't go flying out anytime Bedrock decides to do something. So cover this hopper up with some type of trapdoors. Mangrove trapdoors, they work really well. 10 out of 10 would recommend, especially since we're using it for this farm. Now, with our activation lever now in place, we are going to wire up this other circuit right down over here. So make yourself a simple stair step circuit. You're going to go ahead and align this with redstone dust as shown here. Have a repeater that's going to come out 1 block out, and then you're going to run a redstone line directly underneath this right here. And on this last block directly underneath it, you're going to have yourself another repeater, and then just draw this redstone line out a couple blocks with another repeater behind it at some point. Go ahead and knock yourself out 4 blocks right here, and you're going to have an observer right here with the eye facing down and the face up. You can fill this other blocks back in. I'm going to place an observer in this position, and then we're going to throw down a piston right by that repeater. And then we're going to use that to detect when our flying machines both leave the station and return. And to do that, we are going to use an impulse detector. And these impulse detectors allow us to detect in number of pulses, or in our case, 2. 1 when it arrives, 1 when it departs. So you're going to place down 2 repeaters at full ticks, dropper with a hopper facing into it, solid block, 2 solid blocks to the left here, redstone dust here, there, and in this spot. Then you're going to have a comparator, and then a redstone torch on this top empty block right here, and then also on the face of this one with a line. Go ahead and fill this up with 2 items, and then our impulse detector is now complete. Next, we need to start wiring this up to the back. So extend out 2 blocks to the right and go out 8 blocks total with a solid block ladder like this. Add yourself a repeater and then wire that up with a piece of redstone dust. So you should have a mechanism that now looks like this. Now, the next part of this needs to be done very precisely and exactly. If you don't get this right the first time, you're going to have to redo part of it later. So paying close attention, you're going to place a half slab here and you're going to extend out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blocks. And then you're going to come over 1, 2, 3 blocks just like so. Place a piston in exactly this position. It has to be right there. Double check, triple check, because if you get this wrong, you're going to have to redo it again. Trust me, I've done it wrong like 5 times making this video. Now, we're going to go ahead and wire up this piston. You can go ahead and extend out 2 glass blocks, place a repeater going into that piston, not to the side, and then we're just going to make ourselves a simple staircase down from this input down here. Depending upon what's going on, you can just kind of make yourself this X pattern right here. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. So here's where we are. This piece of glazed terracotta we placed should be in line perfectly with that piston. And let me kind of show you why real quick so that you understand. This is our flying machine. Now our flying machine is offset by 1, and it needs to be offset by 1 because when it starts moving, it's going to be shifted over to the left one. So we're going to have just our imaginary platform right here, and this needs to be aligned so that this bottom piston glides along this invisible track and directly over our observers. If that is not aligned, you're going to be pushing things around your farm, or even worse, completely miss your tree, which is, I think, actually worse because then your flying machine gets stuck. So for the time being, we're going to get rid of all this. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. But our next step is we need to build a big old launch tower for all of our flying machines. So you're going to go ahead and stack up 7 of these pistons total with 2 spaces of blocks in between them. We're on number 4 here. Go ahead and knock those out. 5 and there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, yeah, we're at 7. So these all need to be 2 blocks apart. These are going to be what launches our flying machines. Go ahead and build up a 2-piece of glass platform directly behind each of these. If you're in survival mode, you can obviously build this 1 layer at a time. I'm in a creative just to demonstrate. Go ahead and place down a repeater behind each of these, and then we're going to wire up another staircase pattern going into all of these individual components here. You're going to want a staircase pattern as I have shown here, and around the 3rd or 4th piston or so, you're going to want to boost the signal using a repeater going into a solid block and then staircasing that back to continue this chain all the way up. And then we're going to place some more staircase blocks. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Place this other one right here. Continue staircasing, and it will just keep on going on and on until you have this at the very top of your farm, at which point you can wire all of this up with redstone dust as I have shown here. When wiring this, make sure you also have redstone dust on top of that solid block over there. And as a quick test, as always, it's going to be really important for you to verify that all of these pistons are actually going to be able to eject their blocks. So go ahead and grab yourself a solid block with a torch and just give that a little push. Make sure that every single one of these pistons fires off before you move forward. You're going to save a lot of time if you test this incrementally at each step. You just got to trust me. Next, we need to make our detection circuit to determine when these horizontal flying machines both leave and depart. And to do that, place your glazed terracotta block back down here. You're going to place an observer underneath it, then a sticky piston, and then another observer. And then below here, you're going to place an observer that detects when that observer gets sent down. Then we're going to go ahead and build out that same impulse detector, once again detecting 2 pulses that we are going to use to detect when the flying machines arrive and depart. So you're going to want to grab your repeaters and extend out 2 blocks in front of this observer, placing those repeaters down on 4 ticks. If you want, you can also pre-build this platform as I have shown here. It's just the exact same thing that was before. So set these repeaters to 4 ticks. Go ahead and place down your dropper with a hopper facing into it. Throw 2 items inside of that dropper. They could be any item that you absolutely want. Redstone torch there, redstone torch there, dust on this block there, and then 2 comparators coming out. And now it is time to wire this down up to our signal. And you can just do a very simple staircase. 2 blocks over, 1 down, and another block down. Then we're going to shimmy over here to the left, shimmy back down in our original direction, shimmy 1 over, and we're just going to find our way down to where this line is. And then there we go. So wire this all up with redstone dust. In this situation right here, you just don't want these 2 signals mixing. And we now have our full circuit now completed. So this will detect 2 pulses. There's 1 pulse, there's 2, and now our machine resets. Just do a quick test to verify all that works. You're going to want to test to verify that all your redstone is correct before we start building our flying machines, because fixing the flying machines is a lot harder than fixing the redstone. Now for our flying machines, you're going to want to build the reversing dock first. If you build the dock first, then it doesn't matter if you actually have your flying machine working or not, because you can always reset it. So you're going to come out 10 blocks, go 2 blocks over as shown here, and then a piece of obsidian right here in this position. You're going to place a solid block behind it with a piston, solid block here, observer with the dot facing towards you in this position, and then you're going to fill this up with 2 blocks with a repeater on 4 ticks, dust, 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 dust. Make sure there is not a solid block beneath this observer, and make sure there's not a solid block beneath it. And notice also that we are not perfectly in line with the observer line that we have here. Things need to be offset because of the way that the flying machines are going to be built. Now, to build our flying machines, I'm going to show you how to build one of them, and then you're going to basically repeat that 2 blocks up. So start with the slime block shape in this sort of orientation. You're going to have an observer facing down into the leftmost one, and an observer pointed into the front one. You can place a sticky piston now behind that. Do not do that before, otherwise you might accidentally set off your flying machine, and solid pistons just as so. Place a solid piece of obsidian behind that piece of glazed terracotta, down 3, over 3. Go ahead and delete the excess. Slime blocks in this orientation right here, temporary block here, and then place an observer facing down. You're then going to want to place a piece of glazed terracotta here, and then finally place your sticky piston. So your final shape should look like this. And if you have any doubt about what you should do, pause the video, take a look at it, and make sure you do not put your sticky pistons in until everything else is in. Otherwise, you might accidentally launch your flying machine. Now, all you need to do is give this a quick test. Place a button on that piston, give it a good press, and you should see this fly ever so gracefully and perfectly directly over all of these observers. If things are not going over the observers, check your orientation, because that means that things are not aligned and this farm will not work. You should see this come all the way down to the end, and then our return station should give the whole thing a little push, and it should fly ever so gracefully back here to the end of the farm, where it will dock and be happy. Now, again, we are going to be building this exact same device 6 more times with 2 blocks of spacing between each of them. So go ahead and build those. I'm not going to build each one independently. And if you just like seeing flying machines, just maybe give it another press so you can watch it in action. It's really kind of fun just to see it moving on and on like this. So once you have built all 7 of your flying machines and all 7 of your return stations, you should now have something that looks exactly like this. And you're going to want to make sure that all of your flying machines leave and depart at the same time. So using our test block right here, just throw down a redstone torch, and you should see your flying machines all move together in unison all the way down the track. It's really important that they fly together, because if they don't fly together, they have the opportunity to occasionally get stuck. So it's really important that we test that the flying machines leave and all depart at the same time. And you may notice here, there's some graphical glitches that may occur. They're graphical glitches because we have flying machines. They aren't real. So just try to ignore it just a little bit. Flying machines in Bedrock are really weird. But once all of these flying machines have docked, the next important part to this is we're actually going to break this component because we do not want our flying machines accidentally going off. So I want you to sever these two lines right here. We will add them back, but I don't want those there while you're building the rest of this farm, because if you accidentally fire this off, it will cause all of your redstone, honey blocks, and sticky blocks to get mixed up together, and you'll just have a really bad time, and you'll be really frustrated that you have to fix something that you spent quite a long time working on. So just cut these two lines right here. You will re-add them back, and then just double check that all of these dispensers still have 2 items in it in that first slot. So now let's move on to our vertical flying machines. Now it is finally time to build our vertical flying machines. So as usual, I'm going to show you how to build one. Then all you got to do is build the remaining 5, just knowing that they're slightly mirrored. We're going to do this one last, because if you do that one first, you might accidentally trigger stuff. So 3 pieces of honey blocks over this temporary block here with an observer facing into that rear one. Move that honey block right there. Sticky piston, make sure it's facing up, and then glazed terracotta here in the corners. Honey block here, 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 and here. And then, I didn't show this earlier, but you're going to want to fill in these 2 spaces on either side with some obsidian, then honey block right here. Piston, piston on top, and then another piston over here to the left. And this is our first flying machine. You're going to want to also place a observer pointed in like that, and then another observer in this position right here. If you need to move some blocks out of the way, go ahead and do that. Knock out any temporary blocks you have. And then finally, sticky piston facing down. Make sure you get the last sticky piston, because this won't work without it. Over here, it is exactly the same. It's just slightly mirrored. So make sure that your contraption's off first and that you cut that wire like I said. Then we're going to go ahead and place a exact same shape that we had before. You have that zigzag pattern. Place your sticky piston. Honey blocks back over this. Honey block on the nub with an observer painted into it. Make sure you have the observer on the side here. Honey block there, and then align the top of this with your regular pistons. And there is your first 2 pistons now in place. Again, make sure you have that last slime block in place. I'll stop here so that you can take a screenshot. Make sure you have what you need. Same thing over here. Pause. Go ahead and grab a screenshot if you need it. And now all you need to do is build another 2 of those on each side in the same orientation. Now we need to create our docking station, and this is where the fun begins, because we're going to be working really high in the air, and we need to make sure that we're actually aligned. So we're going to go up about 25, 26 blocks from this honey block right here. The height really doesn't matter as long as it's above about 25 blocks. Then we're going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks as shown here. And we're going to have a block moved out too. You can go ahead and get rid of this right here. Get rid of all of that because we don't need that anymore. And now we're going to make our docking stations. Just go ahead for simplicity and survival. Make a line as shown right here that you can walk over. And then we're going to every other block have a piston facing out. Then we're going to go over 3 blocks. Piston, piston 2 blocks over, piston 2 blocks over, and then you can clear away the excess. Now in front of each of these pistons, you're going to want to place a temporary block so you can slap a piece of obsidian on top of each of them. This is going to be our stop block, and then finally clear out all of these temporary blocks that you had created before. Moving on to the back, we're going to go ahead and extend out 3 blocks from each of these pistons, and we're going to have a mirrored reflection on the left and the right side. So 2 blocks, 2 blocks, 2 blocks, and then on the left, nope, we're not doing this. You need to have this mirrored. So come over here, like this, and like this. So they should be perfectly mirrored. Now you're going to go ahead and build up a staircase pattern right here, and then you can knock out this temporary block, place another temporary block right here, and repeat this for every single section, every single docking section that you have right here. Come over here. We're going to do the exact same thing. Stair block up, temporary block right there. Stair, temporary, stair, and temporary block right here. Go ahead and on top of this, we're going to have an observer with the dot facing in. You can go ahead and top that off right here. and then knock out these temporary blocks beneath it. You need that temporary block removed, because if you don't have that removed, it'll get stuck to your flying machine and you'll have just a generally bad time. Coming on down, you're going to want to place down in front of these pistons, or I guess behind these pistons, 2 repeaters, each on 4 ticks. I'm going to go ahead and do that for every single one of these. And finally, once you have all of those in place, line every other block with a speck of redstone dust. So we're going to go here, 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 and then do the same for every single other component. That should leave you with this structure right here. Now, the only thing that you have left to do is to verify the alignment, and the easiest way to do that is to stand on that piece of obsidian and fall down, and you should land on this honey block. I was off by just a smidgen. That was me falling, not a mistake. Now is the big moment of truth. If everything's done correctly, this should work. And if things weren't done correctly, well, you'll find out very quickly. Again, verify that you're going to land 1 block in front of that. Take a big, deep breath, and then you're going to give this button right down here a push. And if you did everything correctly and you followed the instructions just right, all of these flying machines should whisk up together in beautiful union and harmony with one another, perfectly synchronized. They should reach the top here where these docking stations are at, give that docking station a little kiss, have their bottom pistons retracted, and they should float gracefully back down to their homes that we have created for them. Once you have this done, it is really quite satisfying to watch it. Really satisfying. Now it's time to put all the pieces together. So come over here where we cut those 2 pieces of redstone lines. You're going to finally reconnect them. Just go ahead and place redstone back in this line to connect it, redstone back in this line to connect it. Check this dropper right here. Make sure it has 2 items in it. Same thing up here. Check this dropper. Make sure it has 2 items in it. And once you have verified that everything is in place, you can go ahead and place down your first mangrove. All of these pistons should be retracted and nothing should be activated yet. So go ahead and place down your mangrove propagule, load up this dispenser with some bone meal, and then you can give this activation button here at the bottom a push. Take a deep breath, because if this works, you're about to see some magic. There you go. That is your first mangrove propagule grown up into a mangrove tree. You should see kind of the sides here split open like this. It'll push all of these blocks up to the top. Don't worry, on the first run, you aren't going to run into a block piston push limit. On subsequent ones, you will, which is why we're going to build a cube maker next. But you just want to test and enjoy that the fruits of your labor that you've worked on so hard for the last at least 40 minutes have paid off. So you should see this flying machine dock down here at the bottom. If everything is working with the rear component, these flying machines should all launch, and then they will fly, 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 and push all of the blocks over to the end right here. And again, you're not going to hit the block piston push limit here on the first pass. So once you verified everything's working once and everything's returned home, shut the farm down, clear out all of the blocks that were generated, and then we can start work on our cube makers. Now, your AFK spot when you're using this farm for real is going to be right here. But if you've tested your farm and it worked, congratulations, you have done the hard part. Now, the easy part is up next, and that is creating our cube makers that will cube the flying parts that go up and the flying parts that go out. So first on the menu is our rear cube maker, which is going to gather all the blocks that our slime machines push out. You're going to go ahead and create just a massive wall of observers. You're going to want the face pointed so that it detects the wood as it passes, with the dot facing out away from the farm. And you're going to go all the way down here, and you're actually going to go 1 block below where that piece of obsidian is. So in the video I didn't do it, but you need to go 1 block lower. Then directly behind that, have observers facing out, and then you're going to have yourself pistons going all the way down here. But in survival, this is probably easier to start at the bottom, so just go ahead and climb all the way up and get all of those in place. Well, once you have all of these pistons in place, we're now going to make our piston wall. So come over here to this piston, and we're going to extend out 12 blocks total. Going to hit that pretty quickly here. And then once you reach the end, you're going to make a temporary platform directly beneath this. and you're going to place an observer with the face pointed like this. So the dot's going to be out and the face is going to be detecting anything that gets pushed in there. And then you can build a nice big tower that goes all the way up to the top of the farm right here. Now, once this is in place, you can knock out all of your temporary blocks as we've shown here. And then we're going to build our gigantic piston wall. So place a temporary block right here. Then we're going to go pistons all the way over. And then we're going to go all the way over to 2 blocks before then. So there should be a 2-block gap right here. And then you're going to go all the way up. And I mean all the way up. And through the power of editing, you are now here in the future with me. So once those are set up, we are now going to come back down here to the bottom. Going to extend out 2 blocks from this bottom observer. And then behind each of these blocks right here and alternating rows, you're going to place down solid blocks as shown here. And you're going to do this all the way up to the very top of this. So every other block, every other row gets this line of blocks. Fast forwarding into the future once more, you're going to place down a repeater on this extra block that we have left out. Then you're going to place redstone dust on top of each of these blocks right here to tie all of our pistons together and to get them powered. Another quick jump into the future where we now have this top row done. You're going to come out here and you're going to now build yourself a staircase that connects all of these together. So simple glass staircase will do the trick. Just alternating rows, on, off, on, off, on, off. You're going to bring that all the way down to here. And once you have this staircase in place here in the back, you're going to want to grab yourself redstone dust and cover up all of these glass blocks with a speck of redstone dust. So here, you can just hold down click and bring that all the way up. Bring some scaffolding if you're in survival. It'll make it a whole lot easier. Now coming out of these observers, you're going to want to get solid blocks and once again, completely alternating every other row. We're going to place that here. Then we're going to come all the way back down here. You're going to grab a piece of glass right here, and you're going to build yourself another alternating staircase of glass so that you can tower a redstone signal all the way up to basically anywhere in this. We're going to be detecting any time a block hits any one of these pistons. We need to read that that block is detected, and then we need to eject all these blocks. So grab yourself redstone dust, place it on all of these. Make sure you got every single spot, including this one right here, and then completely cover all of that up. Except for here at the bottom. At the bottom, instead of a redstone dust, you're going to have a repeater down there because this is the most likely spot where you're going to have a signal. Now, as you can see, that signal doesn't quite reach all the way up. So we're going to go about halfway up, and then we're going to go about a block down, and that is where we're going to place an observer. And we're going to build ourselves a simple little platform as shown right here. Redstone dust. Extend this platform out just a little bit more. I'm going to place down a repeater on full, then a repeater on 4 ticks, wrap that around with redstone dust, and then you're going to feed this into just a regular piece of block right here. Next, you're going to go ahead and ladder this up, and this ladder is going to connect with this signal tower over here. Place down a repeater, and then wire all of this up with redstone dust. Similarly, we're going to want to take this signal and then carry it back down and back into this so that we can prevent it from firing. I'm going to place a repeater there, glass, and then that last piece of sandstone that I have there, that actually needs to be a glass block. So if I show you here in just a second why that's so important, if we take ourselves a solid block and we place it here, oh no, our pistons are going to go on and off forever and ever. Why is nothing working? Well, the answer is because this last block needs to be glass. If you don't have that being glass, it's going to give you a lot of problems. And no amount of tinkering with these redstone repeater signals is going to do the trick. So you see right here, it's not actually powering that bottom line. Reset that glass block right there. Now, when you come down here, solid block, this will only fire once. How about that? And that should work for any position on this tower. So just give that a quick test. Top, bottom, middle, somewhere in between. And you are now good to go with this. So now your rearmost cube maker is now complete. For our top cube maker, it's now time to build this bad boy. So come over here on top of this piston. You're going to go up 3 blocks. You're going to go in 1, and then you're going to go 1, 2, and just make sure that things are aligned real quick. It should be right there. So we're going to place an observer with the face like that. Now, so that way that face will be able to detect that. Then we're going to have an observer facing up, and then a repeater. And just visually align that this is in line with the pistons, because these are where your blocks are going to come up. Now you're going to go ahead and just repeat this all the way across. And then we're going to go everywhere except in this middle section right here. And we're just going to repeat the exact same thing that we built. So observer with the dot facing up now on top of all of these. Continue that over here. And then a piston right like so. There you go. That will eject all of the blocks that come up here from our flying machine. Next, we're going to come out over here, and we are going to go out from this block right here. We're going to go out 5. We're going to have an observer with the face pointed up, the dot pointed down. Extend that out, and then you're going to have a piston facing up. So we can go ahead and get rid of these temporary blocks. And just to demonstrate how this works here, when these blocks get pushed up, they're going to then be pushed out as shown here. That's going to continue on and on and on, and eventually that's going to start triggering this. So if we trigger this, that will then start pushing those blocks up for us. So just do a quick test, and then you are going to repeat this exact same pattern that we did and continue it all the way down this line here. So repeat this observer blocks. Again, you're going to want to leave the middle hollowed out, because we're going to do something a little bit special with that. Observers with the face pointed down, observers facing out towards our rear cube maker, and then place down your regular piston pointed up. Once you reach the end of this piston little tower right here, you're going to get a temporary block, and then you're going to have a line of pistons just like this. You can get rid of that temporary block. This is going to extend over all of this. Going to do the exact same thing here. Extend, 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 extend. And then we're going to go up a total of 12 blocks from the bottom, or 10 blocks in total. Another thing to keep in mind is that you have to have this aligned and centered. You see, that's not aligned and centered, which means you're going to have problems. We're just off by 1. So again, this is a super easy fix, just in case you run into it, which you very well might. Go ahead and replace that right there. Get that replaced right there. And now everything is perfectly aligned again. So once you have all of your blocks aligned, you're going to go ahead and extend up this piston tower a total of 10 blocks and make 2 cubes out of it. And when you're done, you should have something that looks like this. So we're going to go ahead and loop on to the back of the farm. You're going to want to do alternating rows of blocks, just as we've shown here. We will be knocking the middle out, but for now, you can just kind of ignore that, because it's easier just to kind of run across. Once you have this set up, you're going to go ahead and knock out this middle block, replace it with glass, and then you're going to extend it out and create this alternating staircase pattern as we have shown here in the video. I'm going to go ahead and continue that here. And then we're going to repeat the same here on this bottommost layer. You're going to want to place a repeater on this glass block here in the middle, and then align the rest of this up with redstone dust. So redstone dust here, all the way across, redstone dust here, all the way across, all the way here, and so on and so forth. Cover every surface of this sandstone and these glass blocks with redstone dust on both sides. And once all of that redstone dust is filled out, you're going to come over here, place a temporary block, and then you're going to place an observer. You're going to want the face down, detecting any blocks that get pushed up to it, and then the red dot facing up. And you're going to carry this across the center, and you're going to fill out this entire space above all of these pistons. With the observers now placed, place a redstone piece of dust on top of all of the observers. Do not place any on these top pistons. That will 100% break things. Then you're going to build yourself out a little glass platform. You're going to wire that up there in just a second. You're going to place a repeater in this position, dust, dust. Then you're going to place extending pattern out like this, repeater on 4 ticks, redstone dust wrapped around it, and now you are done. And you can give everything a test just by placing a block there. Any position that you place a block in, this piston wall should fire, assuming you didn't do it so super duper quick. It has a little bit of a delay, but that delay doesn't matter for the items that we're pushing into it. So with that, congratulations, you have completed this farm. Now it's time to test it. So come on down here. You still have this wire disconnected like I told you to, reconnect it. Double check this dropper right here has 2 items in it. Double check this dropper, make sure there's 2 items in it. Run your final checks, make sure your dispenser has items in it. Make sure everything is set up. When you're ready, go ahead and press that button. Now in survival mode, you can go ahead and use this ladder to climb up here, and you can go over to your AFK spot, which is this piece of obsidian right here. Wedge yourself into this corner, and then right click, and your flying machines should launch. Now, for the purposes of these flying machines and timing of this farm, I would recommend that you set your auto clicker to run every 55 to 60 seconds or so. The farm will automatically reset at a minute 15 thereabout, but you don't want to really place it down before then, because if you're placing the mangrove propagule down before, these slime blocks are going to trigger these observers, which is going to cause this grass block to pop up and down and up and down, which will have you some efficiency losses, which really isn't a problem other than if you are AFKing. So there we go. Our flying machines are now flying all the way across. And once we have that in place, we can go ahead and just double check that all of our cube makers are working and verify that everything with our farm is absolutely perfect. So over here, you can see we have already started to cube things. And then up here, maybe about the next time we'll have things cubed. So while this is running, let's talk about a couple pieces of information that you should 100% know about. These are bedrock flying machines. We talked about this earlier. They can occasionally break, and I'll demonstrate that here in just a second for you. In terms of our wood supply, most of this top wood cube maker is going to be mangrove roots. There isn't going to be a lot of mangrove logs in there. As you can see here, we've now verified that our cube is working. Most of our mangrove logs are going to be in this bottommost cube maker, and that's because they're going to be pushed out from that center thing right there. And I can go ahead and show you that here on the other side of the farm. So if we come over to my reference model that I have over here, about the bottom third-ish of this is going to be mangrove roots, and then the top third is mostly going to be mangrove logs. It's going to really depend upon the height of the tree, and it's a lot of RNG. Again, and then most of this top stuff is going to be just mangrove roots. Now, debugging. As you notice, we have unloaded these chunks, and when you unload flying machines from their chunks, your flying machines are going to break. So it's really important when you're using this farm that you do not fly away and you make sure that the farm is fully shut down. Fortunately, this is really easy to fix. You've got 2 points right up here. This back one is going to be the one you want to use. And as long as it's just an unload error, flying machines will automatically reset themselves back to their docking positions. They will fly, and really as long as that bottom one arrives there semi close to the last, it should be fine. Now, if your flying machines get stuck to a piece of wood, that shouldn't happen, but occasionally bedrock be bedrock, so you'll need to go and fix that. You can either clear out the wood that the flying machine gets stuck to and then manually launch it back on its way again, or if things have gotten really tangled up together, you can simply rebuild those flying machines. Now, that shouldn't happen too often, but again, bedrock is going to be bedrock, and so you're just going to have to play it by ear, because sometimes these flying machines break for absolutely no reason whatsoever other than bedrock, and flying machines are super inconsistent. The other thing that you're going to want to check that I showed just a few seconds ago were those item droppers that are doing your impulse detections. If you're unloading the chunk or doing anything kind of wonky with your world, you might cause those to be unloaded and they will be desynced. So you'll need to check and make sure that they have the right amount. Anywhere else where there's a button, you can consider a debug point to manually run things. And you can always do what we did earlier, where you can sever those signal lines to test individual components flying back and forth if for some reason you need to rebuild these flying machines. Now, I've tested this farm super extensively. I've done it over and over and over. I've been working on this farm for almost 3 weeks now, just on building and designing and cleaning up. So you should have good reliability with this farm. But again, Bedrock is going to be Bedrock. So your flying machines at some point are going to break for no reason whatsoever, and you're going to have to fix it using one way or the other. But that's going to be it for me in this tutorial. As always, thank you so much for watching. I super duper appreciate you watching these videos. If you like this video, you just like it, or you like this farm, if you build it in your world and find it useful, please consider liking this video. I would super duper appreciate it. I've spent a really long time building this. And if you want to see more farms like it in the future, or maybe check out my Let's Play, please consider subscribing. It would really mean a lot to me and help me grow the channel. But as always, you watching is more than enough for me. Like I said, that's going to be it for me in this episode. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.